Hello, and thank you very much for joining us today for another episode of the Cutting Edge Podcast. My name is Matthew. I'm the marketing manager here at Landor Services. And today I've got two individuals joining me. We've got Nicholas Feltham, one of our co-owners and founders, and has worked to the forefront for many years, although he doesn't look like it. And we've got Paul Emery joining us as well, one of our strategic account managers who works on the forefront in sales. Thanks very much for joining us, guys.
Does look like it.
Who does look like he's been here for a long time. Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for joining us, guys, to talk about this.
Thank you.
For those that aren't familiar with vendor complacency and perhaps the term, although I think it's quite self-explanatory, it's where ultimately a vendor, a supplier, doesn't support the customer on their strategic journey, and over time, contracts kind of get left and relationships drop. So looking to, I guess, find out a little bit more from perhaps yourself, Paul, and Nick, your background as well, working in sales, understanding how that kind of comes about, what the common start signals are, what that might look like. So either of you, I guess, really, what are the common things or common ways that you identify vendor complacency? What's the main ones that tend to crop up?
For me, obviously, my day job is speaking to lots of different customers, whether it be my own, new business ones, prospects. The one that crops up the most is the fact that they have no idea who their account manager is. Yeah. They might know, but they've not seen him for years because he just pops in when it's renewal time and stuff like that.
Well, it could even be a supplier, a partner leaving, or it could be an account manager leaving.
Yeah, absolutely. So account manager's leaving, and that account not being distributed to someone else to manage. Yeah. So it's kind of just left to manifest by itself, if you like. Yeah. It could be that someone in the customers has left, so they haven't reached out to the new point of contact. They don't know who to go to. There's a number of different ways. Probably the most frustrating I find is just the fact that a lot of customers feel that they're just a number to the supplier. Yeah. So someone, we're contracted, and essentially they just get in touch at renewal time when they're in it to make a bit more money out of us and stuff like that. That's probably the number one. I don't know what you find, Nick.
Yeah, pretty similar, really. I think my experience, look, I've had over 17 years in sales, set up Landor in 2016 to be an independent consultancy. And on the basis of the reason for setting up was because there was a lot of complacency out there. We were finding suppliers were increasing their costs. They weren't getting account management. The service was bad. The support was bad. And it allowed, there was an opening in the marketplace for us to set up a consultancy that represent all of the brands. Yeah. And the company's grown. It represents different pillars. So we've got 5 pillars, which we'll pick up on over these podcasts, I'm sure of it. But the one we're obviously talking about today is managed print. So for me, as Paul's mentioned, that a lot of it stems from bad account management or non-account management. And then what happens is, because some of the times the customers have bought exceptionally well, but the suppliers haven't made any profit there. Yeah. It's meant that there's some sort of hidden nasties in the contracts, which kind of only rear their heads once the contract's active and live. And for us, from our business, we provide an optimum level of service and support. So we make sure that all of our contracts allow customers flexibility, etc. And I'm sure we're going to pick up on that later in the contract.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think contract's quite a key part of this, really. I mean, I think that's where some of it can. I mean, vendor complacency, I guess, can come about over the years as some of the things that you mentioned, Paul, kind of come about. But I think it can also stem from the very beginning, from that contract being signed. And it, as you say, it could be down to the clauses in the contract. Could even be down to something as simple as not enough margin in the deal. And the company then therefore isn't really, even though they've won the business, they're not really able to support it in the same way, which is, of course, every customer wants to reduce its costs. We want to help customers reduce their costs, but sometimes you can reduce it to a point where you're not actually strategically aligned. It's not sustainable. Absolutely. Yep. And I think that's something that we all see and have experienced, and you can probably talk a lot more to it.
Yeah, I think transparency is critical. Obviously, the customer can benchmark as many costs as they want. If the supplier's not being truthful or upfront with exactly all the charges in the contract, they're going to be misled. Yeah. And once they've signed it, unfortunately, in this industry, once they're in, it's very, very difficult to get back out again without penalties and such. So, misleading from the get-go. And that might be, on paper, this deal looks fantastic. It's so much cheaper than the competition. Usually there's a reason for that. So it's maybe highlighting some of those, which I do on a day-to-day basis. I'm upfront with all my customers. These are the charges. Look, if you're finding it better elsewhere, there's probably a reason. But look, let's delve into it a little bit deeper. But yeah, it's it can start from the start, as you pointed out.
I would say it's not only from a sales point of view as well; it's also from an after sales and support point of view. Because if you've got an inactive service department that's sitting behind the contract, you haven't got firmware upgrades, you haven't got security patches, and there's all sorts of issues that can come from not maintaining the devices correctly. So I think making sure the supplier has got the right back-end infrastructure to monitor the devices, manage and maintain the devices, and have the right enough resource to be able to maintain them, I think that's a massively important area to consider.
Yeah, and I think that's ultimately what you're looking for. As a technology partner, you're looking for someone that can, isn't just providing that hardware, but is then supporting it, and not just supporting it, but supporting you as a customer.
Yeah,
it's helping you develop. It's helping you innovate, and that's quite a key area around this. Vendor complacency is one of the signals, at least from my experience, what I've seen is it can come from lack of innovation.
Yeah,
it's same technology, and you're just repeating contract after contract, but there's no innovation, there's no progression. You're not reducing costs. You're not working with the customer, and I think sometimes one of the signs for that, or red flags, you could say, for that is lack of innovation around technology, not providing additional services, not combining perhaps the print technology with other technology, other document management technology or workflow processing technology, whatever it might be. I mean, AI is a massive area at the minute, looking at how you can start to combine these things. And I think a supplier that perhaps isn't working with you to plot out your strategic direction is a massive risk for your business because, and as you said, with the support side of things, if they're not aligning with you and then providing that support, providing that innovation, in comparison to someone else, there's a massive opportunity list missed there. Sorry for the customer.
I think in addition to that, our industry, the managed print services industry went through a big change in 2020 with COVID, and lockdown obviously enabled businesses to become more flexible in their working conditions. Yeah, enabled them to have a fluid moving team for customers to be able to work from anywhere and have access to their information anywhere. So print volumes have declined. At that point, a lot of customers were looking to make savings, as you'd imagine. Obviously, they weren't in offices; they had offices sitting there, not being utilised. So companies look to reduce their cost in those areas. So contracts were signed at that point for 5-6 years' time, which are now coming up for renewal, possibly a year or so ago, but a lot of them have stayed on those rigid contracts. Although print volumes have declined by in anywhere up to the region of 60-70%, sometimes more. What we found is that the suppliers haven't catered for that reduction, or they've had minimum volume contracts, which Paul can talk a lot more about than me. But businesses haven't adapted and changed. The landscape has changed, but the contracts haven't. The suppliers haven't changed. So what that's meant is that you've still got very expensive contracts out there, which can be reviewed, which our team can look at and hope and obviously introduce some savings there. And combined with obviously sustainability, and we have a big push on that, and we have a very good policies on that, being ISO accredited.
Well, we're continuing to innovate and develop. We're I think quite at the cutting edge of that area.
So those things since COVID need to be considered, and as contracts are coming up for renewal, we, as people are going to see in our marketing campaigns and things like that, we're offering our service out there where we can sort of analyse the contracts, help customers understand what they've got, the liabilities, the contract clauses, look at invoices and see areas where we can help them reduce costs, but also improve reliability, improve their solution. And as you've said earlier, using AI and integration and automation to help reduce the reliance on print. So our view is that we can reduce the printers, reduce your reliance on print, and bring you up to modern day.
Yeah, and I think what you touching on there brilliantly is innovation.
Yeah.
It's not just innovation around the technology, but it's innovation around the contracts, innovation around the service, innovation around additional things like sustainability, security that we're doing and we're bolting into our services. Which there are obviously lots of others that I'm sure are innovating in similar areas, but it's that I think that is quite important to find in a supplier.
Yep.
That they are continuing to be at the forefront of that innovation so that they can bring those ideas to your business rather than someone that's just replacing contract by contract, not working with you, not looking at other parts of your IT infrastructure, not trying to support in other ways. And I think what's key to that is innovation. But one of the things you touched on, interesting there, I mean, you can probably testify to this more, Paul, is contracts. And that's where a lot of this stems from, really, isn't it? It's the contracts, the contract types, and how that can ultimately cause lock-in. It could be another one of the red flags.
There's loads. It is a bit of a minefield when it comes to managed print contracts. Yeah. There's so many different types. You've got your standard. I mean, breaking it down, the most simple format is you buy a printer and someone services it.
Yeah.
It then gets a lot more complicated from that point onwards. You've obviously got leases. You've got all-inclusive contracts where volume is built in. Yeah. And obviously going back since COVID time, as Nick mentioned, volume has decreased massively, but I'm still seeing on a day-to-day basis, volumes haven't adapted to those new environments. So you've still got customers paying well over the odds because they've got volume built in that they might have been averaging 5-6 years ago, that the supplier hasn't catered for, based on, as I said, the new environment.
And
that's
that's not industry specific, is it? Really, you're seeing that across the board, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah. In a lot of other industries as well. Now that's not to say that all contracts are bad. Contracts are good when they're managed properly.
Yeah, and it's the right kind of contract for the right setup.
Exactly.
One type of contract now might not be the same in 5 years' time. It depends on the development, I guess, of the company.
Yeah, I've been in the industry longer than I care to admit, really, because of,
we couldn't tell.
No, I know it's been a tough paper round, but it's I've seen all different types of selling, different types of contract styles, and a lot of different suppliers that I've worked for over the years as well.
Yeah,
do things slightly different, which is fine. But I suppose the most common theme I saw, especially with maybe some of the larger suppliers, is they're only in it. They just want margin. They just want profit from their customers rather than work with them for a longevity partnership rather than a quick win.
Yeah, well, it kind of goes to the you just becoming a number.
Absolutely,
much larger suppliers,
and they become complacent because they expect the same amount to come from every deal every 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Whereas the customer might have changed. Yeah. What was their situation 5 years ago might be completely different. They might have shrunk. They might have got rid of offices because people are now working from home or hybrid situation. So you have to then adapt. And as a managed print provider, I like to think that's what we do really, really well.
I think adding to that, if you look at the manufacturers, they're good at making product. They're good at making technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not necessarily as good at the ongoing service support, account management side, and the integration of that technology into back office systems and the automation of that technology. They're obviously restricted to their product portfolio, whereas an independent like us, completely impartial in the marketplace, can look at all of the technologies out there, look at what the customer's doing, the areas in which they need to innovate or automate, look at any of their manual processes, look to see areas in which we can digitalize those and transform their businesses. And that, combined with managed print, a cost-effective managed print solution, is where we can transform businesses. And I think that's the key thing here is it's not just a printer. It's a device that's connected to a network, which can either, looking at it from one side, is a network device which can have vulnerabilities in terms of security and access to the network, but it can also be used as a gateway, and that gateway can be used to bridge other technologies into that. So from an MPS side, it's quite a big decision for a customer to get that right, especially if they're looking at automation and bringing up their business to modern times. And that's why us as a company, we've acquired a few companies over the time. We're investing more heavily in IT services now, and we can see the future of our business. And we're understanding that the more integral we become to those customers, the better our service is. You know, the ethos and methodology that our business has been built on, we can provide much better service the more support we have internally. And I always, as a business owner here, we've always catered for that headroom, you know, that capacity to ensure we deliver the best level of service possible in our industry.
Yeah, and I think if you're only ever looking at you know, your managed print provider is just the provider of print technology, you're missing an opportunity there. Definitely. I think that is what makes us different. You know, shameful plug handle here, but I think that's what one of the areas that really separates us is that we're not just a provider of print and photocopier technology, but we're also going much further than that. And quite often you do see this, you know, a separation from print and IT technology.
Yep.
You know, that's becoming a little bit less so, but with us, obviously, there is a clear connection between those two, and it's that the benefit you get from us as a supplier, where we're able to support not just with the print technology, but with the IT, a lot of other IT solutions, and then work with you to understand, and it's that consultative approach that is at the bedrock or at the very forefront of Landl, that kind of drives that forward, so that we're working with you as a supplier. And you know, ultimately, vendor complacency, I guess, is mitigated in that way because you've got regular check-ins with your account manager, regular growth strategies, opportunities to kind of find ways to
communication across the board, isn't it?
Yeah,
we've got multiple touch points with our clients, and I think if you look at some of the success we've had, and look, we'd want you to talk to our customers. Ultimately, we want new customers to talk to our existing customers, and that's what's key to sharing the information. And Paul, you've done one recently in a customer where you've had good success. You know, with changing their contracts. So I don't know if you want to just talk about that a bit.
Yeah, the case study that we've recently put together. I think it was obviously based around your customer. It's a great example of what we're talking about here, where you know vendor complacency can be eliminated through proper account management. So if you want to talk a little bit about that situation.
I think it's important to highlight this one in particular because actually that was our own customer, which it came through an acquisition. So we acquired a company. That account was then provided to myself to manage, and having taken a look at what was set up, the type of contract they were on, and having a conversation with them about the way forward, what their new I suppose working methods are, and all the change in over the last 3 years, it was evident that what they had wasn't working for them. They weren't aware of this, but this is what I picked up on. So from the conversations from the start, I put forward some changes. They had, I think we touched on it earlier, so they had a volume-based agreement. Yeah. So they had volume built in, which was a minimum. They weren't achieving this because, like most businesses, volume had declined. They had more staff working from home and a few other changes. So I highlighted this and we made some changes, and it drove out some significant savings to them. We had to make a couple of tweaks. For example, their machine in the marketing department, which you can relate, wasn't quite cutting it in terms of colour quality.
Yeah, we're quite.
You're quite picky,
quite picky with that in marketing. Yeah, it's got to be right. It's got to be right.
It's got to be right for every department as well, Matt. But that wasn't quite cutting it, so we made a small change there and upgraded that equipment. But essentially, the customer didn't realise they had an issue. I think this is the most important thing. They were quite happy with how it was running, but after I sort of broke everything down for them and showed them where maybe it wasn't a best fit for them anymore. I mean, now obviously we're best buds because he's taken that to the board. Obviously got signed off. We made some changes, but it's doing stuff like that. Whereas maybe another supplier, I have seen it, would look at it and think, well, I'm making more money from them. So why would I make any changes?
Well, and also another great example of, maybe at one time that volume-based agreement perhaps was suitable, but now it's not anymore, and therefore that needs to change. And it's important that the supplier is working with the customer to make changes where necessary. And in some situations it could be unlocking some capital there, making some savings, not just for the sake of savings, but then being able to reinvest in something else to then move forward strategically. It's about redeploying, I guess, resources correctly, not just about reducing your costs, but about effectively investing in the right technology and therefore the right partner. The right partner is one that's going to work with you, like in this case.
Yeah. And I think if customers don't actually know what they're looking for, it's very hard for them to understand those areas. Yeah. So that's why we set up kind of a friendly approach, if you like, so that we can engage with potential new customers. We can highlight areas at no charge as well, highlight those areas, look at the analysis, complete the analysis on their existing equipment, existing contracts, the service levels, and show them areas in which we can help them, or they could, however.
It's a fairly boring. I mean, you call up any customer and say, "Can we discuss your photocopier?"
Contracts. Yeah, let's do that. Sounds like how's Friday afternoon?
That's not going to be brought. Something they're going to put right to the front of their to-do list, but it is an important key area of any business, as you touched on, with the security, vulnerabilities, and obviously a lot environmental, but also for the scanning. And a lot of businesses can't function if the kit's not working.
Some companies, it's business critical.
So. Yeah, whilst it is a fairly boring subject for most people to want to talk about, I love it because I've been doing it for so long. And
his wife doesn't.
You do it
yeah, she would argue. But yeah, I think it is an important aspect, and we should maybe find some time to book in chats really, and see what we can uncover.
Yeah, and I think you just touched on it. Then compliance is quite an important factor. The world is changing, legislation's changing. There are always, social things. There are other things that come into play with businesses. And over the course of 12 months, there may be certain things that your supplier needs to support you with. And if they're not, if they've forgotten about you, you're just a number in a list. Very easy then for, things like sustainability. When it comes to environmental sustainability, could get missed. And, you mentioned it obviously earlier, Nick, we're heavily working in this area, have a portfolio of different solutions for our customers. Are offsetting the GHG life cycle emissions for the devices themselves, which is quite cutting edge, really. But compliance generally, so you got obviously the sustainability element. What is your supplier doing around the waste that you're producing? Are they supporting with toner recycling? Are they supporting with offsetting carbon? And then all the way through to security. What security factors?
It's also what they're doing as a business, you see, because we obviously. The profit we make as a business, which is not a bad word. We invest our profit.
Well, that's why we're all here, isn't it?
We invest in our staff, we invest in our business, we invest in the quality from it. We've recently, obviously, we certified on everything in our ISO accreditations. So we're 14,001, 9,001, and soon, hopefully, to be 27,001. Yeah. So as a business, we're investing, and we understand the importance of continually improving. Yeah. So as a company. We make sure that our quality is delivered internally and externally. And I think that's a key thing, is it's understanding not just what contract you're on, because that's one area, but making sure that the business that you're working with and the partners that you've got, because it is a partnership, really.
It is,
If you're partnering on a long contract for 5 years, 6 years, 3 years, however long it is, it's a long-term relationship. Yeah. You want to make sure that customer is fit for today, fit for tomorrow, and fit for the future. Yeah. And I think with what we're doing, we're making sure that it's hopefully an easy on-ramp for our customers to work with us. Our communication from our marketing, the portals we've got for the customers, all the collateral we're doing, the offsetting of the full life cycle, the emissions, which we can pick up on.
You can keep patting me on the back. I'll take it all day. That's fine.
A brilliant piece of work there. But yeah, for us, it's just making sure that customers feel and they are getting value from our relationship.
It's aligning the core values as well. Yeah. Our core values are aligned with a lot of our customers. So it's making sure that what's important to them is also important to us, and we can deliver those.
Well, interesting enough, the foundation of it is innovation. It's innovation. If you're always pushing forward, you're helping to push your customers forward. And as you said, as a partnership, you're then moving forward together. And it's something I've always personally taken pride in with Landell, is the fact that we do take that personable, consultative approach.
Progressive
understand,
approach,
to understand. It's not just, right, here's the contract, sign, right, move on, next customer. It's actually working with each customer, as evidenced by the case study.
The onboarding, the support, the delivery, the team that come out and get involved with you, and the ongoing support.
Yeah. It's not just a supply of technology. It's that progressive partnership to develop you forward, work with other technology elements, and us obviously continuing to invest in new technology, innovate in new technology, gives it a nice supply then to those customers, those partners that we work with.
And absolutely every single customer, and Paul will echo this, I'm sure. In my time of doing this, not one customer is the same. Yeah. Every single customer has a different outlook, or has a different business, and,
different
has a different
direction.
requirement, different software, different back end, different problem, and it's how fluid we can be because of the amount of providers we work with and certified with, how we can select the correct equipment for that customer. We're not trying to shoehorn a round peg into a square hole.
Yeah, which isn't the same for every provider, really. Not every
Definitely
provider works with, something that we are, again, very quite unique on, in that we work with lots of different brands, lots of different manufacturers.
Across all the marketplaces.
Yeah, it's about finding the right technology for the customer, not just, as you say, shoehorning something in and then walking away going, brilliant, deal done, we'll talk to you again in 5 years' time. Yeah. Which, I think is quite unique. I think you would probably testify to something as well, having worked at lots of different providers over the years. And worked with different people.
I wouldn't like to say I've been around the block, but I've been a couple of different places. Hopefully landed here for life. But as I said, every supplier is going to do different. What matters to them most is going to be slightly different. Yeah. And it just seems to be a consistent drag on the industry is dubious contracts and overcharging and lack of account management.
Fairness, isn't it? Openness and fairness. We've got an open book policy. We've got an open book policy right from the top down. We're happy to discuss that with our clients.
Actually, I think is quite unique. But in relation to what are some of the signs that customers can use as kind of something to look out for? What would you say that looks like? How does it manifest?
Increase in invoices.
I was going to say, you took the words out of my mouth, Dick. Cost increases. So what we spoke about earlier is the contract might start at a certain point. It might be the best deal, the best quote you've received, but then all of a sudden the suppliers quickly found out that they're going to lose money if they do this forever. Cost increases start sneaking in, additional costs that weren't discussed, whatever it might be.
So excessive price rises.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily have to just be hand in hand with a low cost starting point. It could be a high cost starting point, and they still put these in because they some suppliers look to try and get away with anything they can. So we look at those. So cost increases, as I said, lack of
flexibility. You talked about
lack of flexibility with contract styles,
hidden
charges, lack of communication.
So not reaching out to you, not regular reviews or meetings.
The amount of customers I speak to on a daily basis that do not even know who their account manager is, or
are these your customers, Paul? Or?
These are definitely not my customers. I hope not. These are not my customers, but no, it might be. Oh yeah, we had someone in 3 years ago when we signed this up, but no one's touched base, and the only person they know in the industry is the help desk employee that answers the call, or something like that. Because
they know the first name of the engineer because he comes there so often. Things like that way kind of makes you question it.
I think one that's quite a good one is when was the last time a firmware update was done? When was the last time you heard something or saw something or spoke to somebody about security around the devices,
or latest innovations on products? You see, this software's got a new. One of the print management software might have a new version, might have some enhancements,
new features,
security enhancements. How often are the people engaging to their customers on those? The
amount of times Microsoft keep changing things, changing the parameters of their systems, which affects everything.
Recent OAuth update.
So that is something that we proactively went out and reached out to all our customers and said, this is happening. We've got some
I doubt many people listening to this will even know about that change coming up.
It's still due to go live, isn't it? Really? So it's. I mean,
that will impact everyone from being able to scan on their device by not discussing it with a supplier.
Yeah, or each supplier, there's obviously different levels of complexity. So it's obviously keeping customers up to date with things like this are quite crucial. I think fundamentally it's are you engaging? Are you speaking with your supplier? Are they working with you? If you're not, if you haven't heard from them in 3 or 4 months, they've probably forgotten about you.
I think if you also look across the board, how many a lot of these customers will have 5 different suppliers. They'll have a supplier for consumables, they'll have a supplier for the printers, they'll have a supplier for IT, they'll have a supplier for telecoms, they'll have a supplier for their internet, they'll have a supplier for security.
Well, a supplier probably for the waste as well. And
the waste. How do you manage all that? We're bringing that together. We're giving them one pane of glass, essentially, where everything comes through us. We can manage all of those. We've got partnerships with all of the manufacturers, not just in print, but also outside of that, IT, all of the vendors we work with from IT side, all of the vendors from a telecom, data, security side. So we're trying to bring that all together, just make technology for the office easier to obtain, essentially, and to manage moving forward.
Yeah.
That's what's key.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much again for joining us, guys.
No problem.
On the topic of vendor complacency.
Hopefully it was of interest.
I think it was interesting. I've loved, great hearing always from the customer's voice, from yourself, Paul, hearing what customers are experiencing.
Yeah.
If you'd like to learn more about the case study or read the case study that was referenced earlier, please visit the Landor website under case studies. And thank you very much for joining us today. Have a lovely day. Cheers. Take care.
Thank you.